we're finally here, the last week of the NFL season, heading into the Super Bowl, and this past weekend, we saw the NFC take on the AFC in the Pro Bowl and beat them in the Flag Football Challenge. Now, because of that, I'll be doing my all AFC and all NFC teams before the Super Bowl this year, as starting off, a couple of rules to start. Players that are playing Super Bowl are eligible to be on the team. Obviously, no one's actually playing a game. And the lineups for the players will be determined by 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 2 tackles, 2 guards, 1 center, 2 defensive ends, 2 defensive tackles, 3 linebackers, 2 cornerbacks, 2 safeties, a kicker, and a punter. Now, a lot of people think edge rusher is now a position in the NFL. Technically, it is not. So a lot of these players you see are considered edge rushers, but they play primarily defensive end or linebacker, and I determined that by what they were primarily listed at. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. I got the starting quarterback for the AFC team, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had a fantastic year, don't get me wrong. This was a very weak year for MVP, but he still had a fantastic season. 6th most total yards among quarterbacks in the NFL. He was lethal on the ground, leading the #1 rushing attack in the league. He had a great year passing as well, super efficient, didn't turn the ball over, and he led the Ravens to the 1 seed. The stats speak for themselves on that one. Now for my starting running back, I have Raheem Mostert. The 31-year-old running back had a fantastic year down in Miami this year, a career year in fact, with 1st in touchdowns in the league. He had the 10th most rushing yards and the 9th most yards per attempt, and a lot of that list in yards per attempt is made up by quarterbacks. My other running back, I have Derrick Henry. He's Derrick Henry. He had the 2nd most rushing yards in the league, he had the most carries, and he had the 6th straight season in his career where he had 10-plus rushing touchdowns. And then beyond to the receiving corps, I have Tyreek Hill leading the way. Despite missing a game or two, Tyreek Hill led the league in receiving yards this year. He had 119 receptions, and which was 2nd best in the NFL, and he was tied with Mike Evans for most touchdowns as well. Other receiver, I have Nico Collins. He had the 2nd most yards in the AFC, 8 touchdowns, and a fantastic breakout season for the Houston Texans receiver. Lastly, I have Keenan Allen. Despite only playing in 13 games this year, he had the 4th most yards per game in the league, 108 catches, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Despite the Chargers' lackluster season, he was there the whole time, and he kept that offense churning. Moving on to tight end, we have Travis Kelce. Not a lot of great tight ends in the AFC this year. Kelce was the only one that came really close to 1,000 yards. He didn't have a fantastic year either, but we've seen what he's done in recent weeks. He's still Travis Kelce of old. I'm still taking him in a game over anyone else. Then moving on the offensive tackles, I have Laramie Tunsil and Deion Dawkins. Both of these players had fantastic pass block win rates this season, with Tunsil at 92% and Dawkins at 93%, both among the best in their category. Both led fantastic pass blocking offensive lines and pass offenses. I think they're fantastic players. Moving on to guards, we have Joe Thuney and Joel Bitonio. Joe Thuney had one of the best offensive line seasons in recent memory, 99% pass block win rate. That means he held his block for at least 2.5 seconds on 99% of his snaps. And Joe Bitonio, 96%. That's only a couple spots below him on the list. That's still fantastic numbers for him. And at center, I go with Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum also had a 96% pass block win rate. And on top of that, he was the center for the #1 rusher team in the NFL. It's got to show something on how good you are as a player. Now, moving on to the defense, we have Myles Garrett as the starting defensive end. In my opinion, he's a defensive player of the year. He had 14 sacks this year, 4 forced fumbles, and the 2nd best pass rush win rate in the league. I think he easily should take home that award. Other defensive end, we have Max Crosby. Crosby, easily the best rush defender in the league, had 118 wins and 328 plays. On top of that, 14.5 sacks, and he helps lead the league in tackles for a loss at 23. Simply an incredible player out in Vegas. Defensive tackles, I have Chris Jones and Justin Madubuike. Jones had 10.5 sacks this year and had the 2nd best pass rush win rate among defensive tackles. And Madubuike, 13 sacks, 33 quarterback hits. That's the most quarterback hits of any D lineman on this list. He had a fantastic season for the Ravens and was a big part of that dominant rush defense. Now, moving on to the linebackers, we have TJ Watt. TJ Watt obviously led this year the NFL in sacks, had 19. He had 4 forced fumbles, and he's the finals for Defensive Player of the Year. Speaks for himself in that category. Middle linebacker, I have Roquan Smith, 158 tackles, 84 solo. Captain the best defense in the NFL in the Ravens. Enough said. Other linebacker, Josh Allen, 17.5 sacks, jumped up from his last year total by 10.5. Was a few bright spots on this Jaguars team that was lackluster this season. but he's due for a big payday this offseason. Cornerbacks, we got L'Jarius Sneed and Pat Surtain. Both of them statistically don't jump off the board. I mean, Sneed had 14 passes defended, which was 8th in the league, but Pat Surtain only had 1 interception. But if you go back, you look at the film, look at who these guys played, they were locked down in coverage all season long. They're definitely deserving of their spots on this team. And at safety, I got both Baltimore Ravens safeties. I have Kyle Hamilton and Geno Stone. Hamilton had a fantastic second year in Baltimore. 4 interceptions, 81 tackles, really showed that he's the future of this defense and he could be an Ed Reed type player for the rest of his career. And opposite to him was Geno Stone. 7 interceptions, second best in the league, most for a safety, 68 tackles, fantastic year for him all around. Then we go on special teams, we got kickers and punters. Kicker, I went with Dustin Hopkins of the Cleveland Browns. 33 for 36 on attempts. 8 50-plus yard kicks was the most in the AFC, second most in the NFL. And then with punter, I went with Patriots punter Bryce Behringer. Second most punts in the league this year at 98. 38 of those were inside the 20. And he had one of the longest punts in the NFL this year as well at 79 yards. So, that's my team for the AFC this year. NFC video will be coming out later today. Be on the lookout for that. Let me know if you think I snubbed anyone down below. I'll be sure to respond. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.